Hey, I'm Mel.
Hey, I'm Mol
Welcome to the Podyssey.
with the GlioBabes.
Two girls,
Two brain tumours.
what could possibly go wrong?
Well, we are live and we have an audience, so quite literally anything could go wrong, so I think we should just get into it.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us at this very special event here at FACT. Not only is this a live podcast, this is a first for us as the GlioBabes, so thank you all for coming here tonight. We are joined by artist Nina Davies and Luke to talk about the project Meet Me in the Digital Twin. Over the past year, the group have came together to imagine a fictional podcast and film, which you can catch downstairs, inspired by the complexities and confusion of living with and beyond cancer.
We'll get straight into it if you guys are happy to do so. My first question to Nina, where did the initial idea for this project come from?
Okay. So the initial idea, I think I came into this project without a sort of initial idea because what I wanted to kind of get to know you guys first, which was the main thing. Because I think I didn't want to come in with any sort of like preconceived notions about what living with and beyond cancer was. So first of all, I wanted to find that. Maybe I could never fully understand it, but I wanted to get closer to understanding what that might be and how we represent that in the work. And I think, like, as I said, I think just most importantly, I really wanted to get the vibe on who you guys were as people to kind of try and bring that into the work as well. And yeah, I think that the only thing that I went into the project kind of knowing was in my work, I normally research dance practices and what they mean. And the way that I explore that is through fiction. So I kind of fictionalize sort of popular dance trends that we see online, like TikTok or in Fortnite. And I kind of try and create stories about why people might do this. One thing I knew I wasn't going to do is make you guys dance. That was the first thing. But I kind of thought, oh, what if the kind of research focus of this project is what living with and beyond cancer is, then why don't I approach, instead of make the work about dance, why don't I approach this research subject with this sort of fictional kind of approach of like thinking through this thing through fiction. But I didn't know exactly where the fiction would lead us. And that's kind of where the three of us kind of figured that out together over like loads of sessions and loads of like live action role play and character creation. And then it was sort of just suddenly we had a story. I felt like there was a point where we just kind of were like, okay, we've got a timeline. We've got really developed characters. Yeah.
You've touched on it a bit there, Nina, but how has working with young people living with and beyond cancer shaped the story for you as an artist? Has it worked out differently to what you expected, or has it kind of gone down this is kind of the way I'm going with it, this is good, we're on track, or has it completely gone the other way?
The question of is it on track? That was never a question I asked myself because I felt like I didn't have any limitations of what on track was meant to look like. Apart from I knew that we had to kind of create a fictional podcast episode, and I knew that we would eventually make a film from that. But those were sort of only the two main kind of points that we needed to get to.
How did working with young people living with and beyond cancer help shape the story?
I mean, I think the thing is, I think that it is the story. I would say that there wasn't a story that kind of existed before. I think so I'm kind of going maybe back to the first question slightly, but I think I didn't, I've never like worked with, I've never sort of done participatory work, and especially also kind of, I guess, working with people that have like very kind of close emotional stories, or like not knowing sort of what the limitations of like where people wanted to go and how much they wanted to share. And I think that was something that I didn't know what to expect with that. But you guys were like such a great group, and I would say a pretty resilient group, and also really funny. So we were kind of able to just go, I felt like we were kind of able to go in so many different directions. But yeah, I think yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'd be interested to know I don't know whether we're kind of going to go there like later in the conversation, but I would be interested in kind of knowing from you guys how thinking about this stuff through art, but maybe we're going to come back to that
Well, it
later.
does lead us on perfectly
Oh,
to
okay.
a question that touches upon that on the film podcast itself, and for you, Luke. So the film/podcast, the BB, how did creating that help you look at your own experiences of cancer and recovery in a new way?
I think that when we've took everything apart and we wanted to create this world with like obviously using the basis of it's in a hospital, the digital twin and everything, but we don't want to mention it. We don't want to bring it to the forefront like very bluntly like that. We bring our own experiences in like throughout the story. You'll see it in the film as well. We forget that's actually us, and like knowing that we've all lived through that and being able to have an opportunity like this as well to create with an artist, work with an artist as well is really good. But it's been a good way to digest as well, I think, especially through some of the conversations we've had and some of the workshops has been helpful through actually, taking a step back and looking how do we express this.
How did creating the BB, so the podcast and the film downstairs is called the BB, how did creating that help you look at your own experiences of cancer and recovery in a new way?
I think because throughout the whole process, we've obviously made the story up, but then we've gave our bits and pieces of what's happened to us. And I think when it's like even like a few months down the line or years down the line, it makes you like take a step back and realise everything that has happened and like how far you've came. Like even the first night when we came down and seen everything put together, it was just like a wave of emotion because you're like, oh God, we all did this. And I don't know, when you like fast forward a bit, even though it was like a year ago, some of the things that have happened, it's like a short space of time. But then the amount that we've done is impressive, I think.
Yeah. You're not wrong.
No.
It is such a short space of time though, isn't it? And being able to work with an artist and work with a group and do everything that we've done over the past 12, 18 months, say, for the project is massive. So I think it's, it kind of allows you to take a step back from it, doesn't it? And allows you that like separation from patient to character almost, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I think because me, you and Luke were patients, when Nina's came in, like not blind, but like she didn't really know. Well, she hadn't had a cancer experience of herself, so it was quite interesting to see her take on things because we were saying it as like it was just maybe not like it wasn't a big deal, but like because we're used to it, we weren't really realising how big the events have happened to us, and then her reaction, it makes you realise like, oh God, that was quite a big deal and what we've done and how far we've came.
Yeah.
I think that was nice just seeing it from an outsider's perspective, but then I think that's why it works so well because everyone had different points of views, and I think that's why it's so interesting because it's 3 different people, and obviously then Nina as well, she's took her spin on things from what we've said, which I can imagine is hard. I think when we met Ennis for the first time when he was doing the character development with us, that was like a standout moment for me because I remember thinking, oh my God, this is someone who's had a cancer diagnosis and then not moved on, but like they've grown up, and I've never met anyone like that before who's had a cancer diagnosis younger and then turned into a younger adult. So I remember just sitting there thinking, wow, that was just crazy.
Yeah.
Because thinking that's just going to be us.
To see like the other side of it and what Ennis has done.
Yeah, because I think obviously we're at that point now when it's quite recent what's happened to us. It's just a bit like, I know he's a different person, but it was like a chance of seeing in the future a little bit. Because I think I remember when I got all the all clear, it was like, oh, I'm dead happy inside. But then also part of me was a bit like, oh, I'm not sure if I'm ready to move on from this now because I'm so used to my life being a bit like that. But it's nice to see that like life does go on, but you don't have to like let go of that period of your life that's happened. So I feel like that was like a key moment for me, and I thought, yeah, that gave me the confidence to just be like, just because it's happened doesn't mean you have to completely let it go, because it is our past.
So, we've discussed the podcast and the film and everything else that's been going on with this project, but what do you personally want people to take away from the project? So I know we've said before how you know, we didn't want people to come in and feel sorry for us or be like, oh, isn't that nice? But what do you personally want people to take away from the project downstairs?
I think like what we've said before, like even when we had the tour come, even if it's people when they see Clatterbridge, maybe just assuming older generations, so maybe retired people in that age group who you think get ill. Well, the complete other side when it's like you'll see on the TV when it's like children with cancer, it's kids. There's never any like representation for that age, like the middle group. When obviously you're not a teenager, but then you're not grown and have got kids either. So I think it being that niche group, it does make a difference because I don't think I've really seen anything when. Well, I know I haven't like seen anything when it's something that we can relate to with that age group. Because I think with our age, you can either be like, I don't know, we could have kids or we could still be at home or at uni and doing these things. So I think having us three all at different points, 3 different people doing different things at different ages, it covers that niche group then. So I feel like it will represent for everyone who's probably, maybe they've just been diagnosed or they've had treatment or, I don't know, they haven't had cancer or they're just our age group, just to see like a little snippet of what it's like in a way.
The kind of like being able to talk about it like through a sort of fictional world rather than having to just talk about it as yourself, kind of a little bit more like raw, being able to kind of, and also
separate yourself as well.
I think we spoke about it when we did the tour of the exhibition. Someone asked a question about like why a sci-fi, and then I think when someone first asked me the question, I was like, oh, I don't know how to answer this question. and then I kind of remembered that the kind of the whole process of going through these systems, or I would say like a lot of medical kind of experiences anyways, the environment of sci-fi, like it's already kind of there. We talked about like when we did the tour and you find out about the gold tattoos that you get if you go through radiotherapy. It's like, this is stuff that I feel like is already in a sci-fi film. So we actually didn't have to make this like huge speculative leap in thinking of it as a sci-fi, but it was almost just kind of breaking down the experience into like sort of more scientific language or sort of more sci-fi language. Which I don't know. I can answer that. I had fun with it. I hope you guys had fun with it as well.
Definitely, yeah. It was because at the start we weren't really like entirely sure what we were doing. Where
we didn't have
the path, the path like naturally just formed itself, and the way it's gone to like a sci-fi.
We kind of had to get lost in the world. I remember there was a point where I think it was Mel, you were like, what are we actually doing?
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, I don't know. We have to find our way out. We're kind of like, we've made it messy and now we have to kind of like find our way out of this. And I remember thinking, I don't actually really have a plan. We're just kind of here in this like crazy world. And now we need to make sense. And now we need to kind of make a story from it that actually will make sense to people who are coming to the gallery.
Yeah. It's difficult to explain as well. And I remember having this conversation with my mum and dad, and my mum's like, what are you actually doing? And I'm like, that's a great question. I don't know myself.
Well, so we're also bringing in, you're all 3 individual people who've also had completely different experiences. So we're kind of throwing in 3 people's different experiences and trying to make one story out of it. So it was sort of like a melting pot of stories that all kind of...
But it concocted well.
Yeah. A juicy potion.
Yeah.
So if you think about it on like more of a general level, we know that there's science and research and stuff that when this podcast goes out, I'll link it in the show notes so that people actually can see it. And between taking traumatic situations and finding different ways to process and communicate about them and through them and with them. So in this case, when it comes to art itself, what benefits do you think that there are for people taking that situation? So in this case, cancer, treatment, recovery, life living with and beyond, and putting them into this art. What benefits would you describe to someone on the outside?
That's such a good question. It would be hard for me to completely answer it without just kind of putting on my own opinions on like, with not going through like treatment and the healing process myself. But I think what I would kind of say is that I think it offers a space to kind of step outside of the experience, but then sort of reframe it in a new way and maybe have some more agency over what this experience is. And being able to kind of, maybe this sounds like a bit of a lame answer, but I feel like there's something a little bit more to it. But I think make it fun rather than, and maybe that's what I mean by kind of having more agency over it, is it's not sort of being overly positive about it, but it's sort of like finding the things that actually were sort of interesting in these experiences, and what have you learned from, what has one person learned from them, that, which I guess you're probably always doing all the time, thinking about how anyone learns from any situation that they're going through. But I think that I don't know whether I'm necessarily talking about art as a whole. I'm maybe talking about thinking things through fiction specifically, rather than working with your experiences in art. But yeah, I think it's about kind of being able to take a step back and relabel things, I think is a useful exercise, I think. But I don't know what, yeah, maybe I'm going to pass that question on to you, Luke.
No, I think, as I was speaking on earlier, like being able to extract all the experiences that we've had and like put them in an art form or a story form it's a good way to unpack it for experience. But as you know, an artist, I can't really touch on that. But
yeah. Well, no,
yeah.
I think you guys did collaborate. Like, I think we were all kind of artists in this. Yeah. I mean, you made your character. Like, we made the story together. You guys were the artists in this project as well. I wouldn't say it was just me.
I think what I want people to take from it is, obviously it's got deeper story to it. Like, my main thing is like all three of us are a similar age, but it's all different diagnosis. But we all relate in one way. Like, we've all came together and created this thing, and then we've used it as it's a lighter topic when we're saying, oh, it's like a sci-fi thing. And like, for us, it's been a bit of an escape in that way of being able to be creative and, I don't know, take our mind off things and put a positive spin on what's happened. And I think I would like people to, just maybe see that in the way that we've made a positive out of a negative, and we've been able to be creative and maybe not harp on the negative things that have happened, and we've done something creative out of it. And we've been able to use our spare time and talk, like, throughout the creative process, like, say about our experiences, but also use that, but then not make it directly about us, because we're trying to say that we want it to go out to everyone. I didn't want to make it so specific, so it just covered one group. So I know I said before about saying about that niche age group, but I think when we're saying cancer diagnosis and the fact that it says Clatterbridge, it's like that is a diverse age group. So I think even though we're covering like younger people, the older people and the younger can relate to the story, but then also just be open to everyone as well as.
I think, as you said before, Luke, it's kind of like being able to have that separation from, oh, my name's Mel and I've had a brain tumour, to my name's GlioBabes Godwin and I'm a professor, or whatever it may be. But like, being able to have that separation between the characters, as you said before, helps you to come to terms with it easier through the sci-fi lens, I guess. And, you know, we've said before about it, we didn't mean for it to go down the sci-fi way, but it kind of made sense for it to flow in that direction. But I think that kind of takes us into our next question, Nina, is the digital twin, for those who've seen it downstairs, is a pretty wild concept. Would you not agree? Everyone's nodding. It's like the building has a memory of its own.
Yeah.
So what did this metaphor mean to you creatively as an artist?
First, the metaphor part. We did some of the sessions at Clatterbridge Cancer Centre, and I kind of went through, and they were talking about this building as it's a place where treatment happens, but also it's a place where research happens. So maybe not out of every single treatment there's research made on it, but there's sort of this mark this isn't to do with the digital twin necessarily, but there's kind of a mark that's made from all the people who are using this building that kind of like there is a sort of memory and storing and archiving that naturally happens in these kind of spaces that's like constantly working. So even though you're there as a patient, you're kind of part of this system of memory, I feel like, like knowledge building, which is a big part of what's happening there. So whether you're aware of it or not, you're kind of partaking in this sort of sci-fi experience. And then the reason why I actually decided to use the digital twin, it was sort of maybe after our third or second session when we were just starting to kind of expand the idea and start labeling things as different names. And we didn't look, there was sort of, we were kind of starting to do that work of thinking through these experiences using fiction. And I was thinking, okay, now we need to start kind of making a plot and like how are we gonna kind of build that sort of plot line architecture for all these relabeling and fictionalizing everything through. And I found out that the Clatterbridge Cancer Centre actually uses a digital twin, which is the sort of virtual replica of the building that operates in real time with the building. So it's kind of monitoring, I think with the Clatterbridge Cancer Centre, it's specifically like the heating system. So like there's a specific temperature that these buildings need to be operating on for the patients. So it's constantly taking in the temperature and like adjusting it. So there's no person like just going to the thermostat and turning it down. It's like automatically doing that. And there was a moment where I almost went like really crazy and meta with it, but there was the whole reason why this exists is actually part of a kind of eco-friendly thing. And I thought there was something really interesting about the building kind of taking care of people inside the building, but also taking care of the environment outside. But then we were like, I think I had a conversation with the team here and we're like, this is getting too crazy. We can't go there. So there's that. And then I think that's kind of where we started. And I think there was sort of, and the plot point was sort of, that's where I then came up with the idea that you guys would be researchers. We didn't know exactly what kind of researchers you'd be, but the idea was, what if we're 500 years in the future? This building maybe doesn't exist or isn't being used for what its intended purposes were. And what if cancer doesn't necessarily exist or maybe just exists in a completely different form? And the only thing that remains of this building is the digital twin in a sort of like black box kind of scenario. What would people in the future thought happened in this building? That was kind of that was the moment where I was like, okay, there's the beginning of the story. And now with everything that all the work we've done of renaming everything, let's kind of now build it and put it together.
What advice would you give to other young people who want to turn difficult experiences into creative expression? How would you? Yeah. So obviously we've had the chance through Clatterbridge and the collaboration with FACT and things like that. But say if people didn't have that, like how would you encourage someone to start through that creative expression to?
I think the first thing I would say to someone is sometimes like dealing with these sort of difficult situations, whatever level of difficulty. It could be an interpersonal conflict. It could be something like scaling it up to much bigger. I think when you interrogate those situations in your life and really sit with them and question what's actually happening, like really kind of break it down to the bare bones. The form of interrogating these difficult experiences, I think, is where the best art comes from and the most interesting art, and usually like new takes on specific situations, because we don't really want to see art that's like, I'm really happy and I've made artwork about why I'm really happy. Maybe happy is the wrong word, but like I think there's sort of something about seeing there being something that someone's working through. Again, it can be a personal thing or it could be a societal thing. It doesn't have to necessarily always be a personal thing, but I think that's where the interesting questions come from, is like through those difficult moments or difficult times.
So then, Luke, what was your kind of like first reactions or thoughts when you realised that you're going to be making a fictional sci-fi podcast about Clatterbridge Cancer Centre? What was going through your mind at that time when you realised this is really happening?
No, I think it was really like a really cool concept. I worked on a project previous with the hospital and it was something completely different, but actually like taking the the structure of our hospital and like the foundations and building it into this a podcast as well, and the way it's been expanded into this Wi-Fi like sci-fi thing is like the fact that I didn't know what this is what we were going to do has made it better, I think. But when it got to the point where we kind of figured out, all right, this is what's happening, then it was really, I was like, this is a really good idea, and the way it's been, the way it's been navigated is, been a unique experience.
Going back to the project, the whole idea of a sci-fi podcast and film and turning a hospital into this crazy world 500 years in the future. If the world was real and the BB was real, what part would you most want to visit, or what would absolutely terrify you about it?
Well, both. I think I'd want to go to the bunker, but that's the one that scares me the most. I just think that one, I don't know why, because I feel like that's kind of like where my character kind of focuses on. I feel like that's quite like a big part of the story when my character comes into it.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. It's intriguing, but also scary.
When this project started, we were looking at the digital twin, and I know Nina spoke about it previously, as the digital twin is actually a thing, and it looks at replicas of Clatterbridge in real time. And I know we were looking at the maps of the different floors, and we were talking how and trying to name each floor individually without talking about cancer or hospital and things like that. And I think personally I would want to go to the very top and go to the beverage bay, which is where the name, the BB for the podcast comes from, isn't it? So you'd want to go to the bunker?
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, we would never know, but it's sort of, I wonder whether, if at the beginning, like if this project ends up happening again, I wonder if someone were to see, like it was another 3 people at Clatterbridge, and they said, this is what the previous people made. I wonder how different people's expectations would be of the project, because we had you guys kind of had no idea. We were just going in cold to be like, we're going to make something. We have no idea what it was. And I wonder if you kind of like saw another sci-fi, whether that would kind of change how.
Yeah, no, that's interesting, because we wouldn't know. Yeah, exactly. Hypothetical.
The name Luna Odell Otto sounds very mysterious yet very poetic. How did Luna come to life, and did you see parts of yourself in your character?
The name Luna, that kind of just somehow came into my head, and I think some days when we're doing long days for developing the story and stuff, you can't go very deep, and then going off into all different parts, and I feel like sometimes when it just comes to you quick, like the way it did, just go with it. Because I think when you start overcomplicating it, and I feel like the name does suit, and the character does become the name. But I think when we were saying before about all the different types of characters, like I feel like yours is very you, and Luke's is very like him. But I think with mine, I feel like personality-wise, she isn't like me, but then I do like, in a way, think of maybe my story is similar to her. Because I feel like she's quite reserved and quite serious, and I'm not. But I think with but then I also think with me, like when you were saying things about our story, sometimes you want to say what's happened, and then some days you just feel like I don't want to get that personal. So in a way, I think I am kind of like that, because I don't want to give everything away, and I feel like Luna is a bit like that. She does give bits and pieces, but then won't completely just
divulge.
Well, I feel like yours is like that.
Oh, probably, yeah.
But yeah, I don't feel completely disconnected, because obviously it is my character, but there is pieces of me in there. But I think her overall character is quite the opposite to me, with her being uptight. I feel like she's quite uptight and reserved. So,
interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. So in terms of the project, there's 3 characters: Anakin, Glio, and Luna. So if Anakin had a motto, what would it be?
I think I thought long and hard about this. It'd be scanning reality, stepping beyond it.
Oh, I like that.
Because I think it relates to obviously his role being a whole tech guy and scanning the Wi-Fi, and stepping through it being the digital twin, when obviously Anakin didn't, for undisclosed reasons. But yeah, it was. I think that would suit him quite well.
I was also going to say it's kind of funny that it ends up being you and me that's being interviewed today, because the other two go through to the digital twin.
Well,
It feels like we're
Works
the
out,
two
yeah.
last.
So
last couple standing.
if it was me, I thought your motto was going to be, "Oh, I'll just leave them in there. I'll get some peace and quiet. I'll leave them in there." So I'm glad you didn't say that, Luke. Thank you very much. So my question to both of you now is, what did you enjoy most about the project? So be it the production side, we went into a motion capture studio and spent the day in there, and we were, wearing all these funny outfits to try to make it look like we were in a digital twin. Or would it be, where we had the argument in the podcast room and I'm like, I'm a professor. What would you say was your favourite part of the project?
My favorite part was when you couldn't stop laughing when we were recording the bunker scene. And then editing it and watching it back. It was just like...
It's probably like 20 minutes worth.
Yeah. There was one bit that you just got stuck on and you just couldn't stop laughing. And then when I was editing it and I was watching it back, I was actually laughing out loud in my studio. And someone was like, "Oh, are you listening to a podcast?" And I was like, kind of. Not really. I think the day in the motion capture studio was kind of like our field trip day out.
Yeah.
Like, that was the fun. There was a lot of lulls.
Yeah.
It's like a school trip, wasn't it?
Yeah. I think I'd agree with the motion capture thing, but I think my reason would be a bit on a deeper level. Like, I think we touched on it on the tour as well. As I said, I'd done a project previous to this with the hospital, and I was still, I was in a wheelchair, and being able to be in the production side of it and get them skin tight motion capture suits on a titanium leg that wouldn't budge, and like still get involved while having these like obstacles in the ways, really like put it into perspective how over the past like two years my life's like pretty much getting back to normal. But yeah.
What did you enjoy most about the project, be it the motion capture studio, using AI to create your character? What did you enjoy most?
When we done the tour.
Okay, so right at the very end.
Well, I enjoyed all of it, but when we got to like see people interact with it and then maybe give our take on things when we were talking about it, like at the very end, I think that was rewarding. But when we did the motion capture, I think that was fun because it was an experience. And like none of us had done that before. So when we look back on it and think, oh, that was something that none of us had done. So I thought that was fun.
I think you said something funny, really funny, Mel, when you guys had got into the suit, or it was after you got into the suit, and you were like, "What did you say? You said something like our friendship has gone above and beyond now," or something like
You've
that.
seen everything.
Yeah,
it's like almost as tight as a wetsuit with like these little ping pong balls and all these different.
I think it was
areas.
You still had to wear like your normal clothes. Everyone had to wear their normal clothes underneath. So it was like still like you saw like kind of like bulgy bits of the clothes.
Yeah, it wasn't a look.
That makes me think, actually, I think you need to shift over there, please, because we should be asking you some of these questions too.
Okay.
So,
I feel like I should take the bow.
and Mel, what did you enjoy most out of the project?
What did I enjoy most about the project? To be honest, like just seeing it all like come together. Like when we first started, you guys have both said it yourselves, like we had no idea the direction that this was going to go in. So to kind of see it like all come together, and then when you said before, when I was like, what are we actually doing? I actually think that was like a week before the exhibition actually happened. I was like, oh, this actually all makes so much sense now. Because, when we start talking about like a podcast and a film and all these different things, you don't kind of think that it's all going to be
cohesive.
Yeah, like it's all going to work together. But then when it actually all came together and, when I actually saw it for the first time downstairs, I was like, oh, this is what we've been doing. But yeah, I've kind of just enjoyed the whole process of it. And, I think one of the highlights for me, which always, there's plenty, but when we were recording the podcast, we had to make it sound like we were in different areas, and you as the podcast host were traveling around to all these different places. And I remember we just took like a little microphone and we done some recording out on the street with Eve, and we came back in and I had to
pretend that you were in a gym.
Yeah,
And to all pretend to be the audience.
Yeah,
laughing at
and then
you.
everyone's laughing, and I remember Ash goes over and she's like, "Can everyone just laugh?"
There's only like 4 of us.
Yeah, but that was like downstairs in like the middle of FACT, so like there was loads of people around. But yeah, I just think there's so many different parts about it that I could pick out that I've just really enjoyed. But yeah, seeing it all come together, I think was where like the magic happened for me, I guess.
Also, I worked you guys really hard at with the acting. I felt like there were some moments where I was thinking, oh, I feel like I felt like I kept going like, do that line again and say it more natural, like, which is like a hard thing to do. And you guys like totally smashed the acting. Everyone I've shown the podcast to had asked me if I'd worked with actors. They were like, those aren't the people you're working with, are you? Are they? And I'm like, yeah, they are.
It's giving GCSE drama.
Yeah. I think it's better than GCSE drama.
Are we going A-level?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. That's pushing it a bit there. That one.
Definitely at the end when we got to give our take, like me, you and Luke, when we all gave our little pieces at the end after the been in and seen it. I thought that was good because it feels like it builds your confidence as well because we were speaking in front of an audience.
Definitely.
I mean, I think it's like more personal to my individual experience, but as I touched on before about being able to do the workout with my leg, anyone who would be in my position, maybe through cancer or whatever, who feels like they're limited through mobility, where they're losing a limb or having an extra hurdle to get across, just do it, because 9 times out of 10 you probably can't, even though people will say do this, or you'll have certain people worried about you to say, don't do it, but you'll be fine. You can still manage yourself whether you feel like you've been knocked down a peg or whatever. So yeah, just have the same confidence.
And Mel, the BB, the film / podcast itself, if you could pick one thing that you'd want listeners to take away from it from the outside, what would that be?
I'm probably going to go a bit deep with this. So we said on the live tour how, we are, like young people that have had experiences with cancer and things like that. But I think for me, the main thing that I would want people to take away from it is, at the end of the day, even though we are patients to a certain degree, we are also still people, and we're not like defined by our diagnoses, and we're not numbers or statistics at the end of the day. Like, we're still people, and to be able to have all this fun and make all this project and things like that kind of shows that even after that diagnosis, like, things don't stop and things continue. So I think for me, I would just want people to take away from it is that at the end of the day, like, we are still people.
We're awesome.
Oh, bless you.
We're united.
And then shifting that over to working with Luke and Eve, what have you learned from them? What's something you've learned from each of them through the entire process?
It's a big question. I think for me, you've touched on it before, Luke, like, we worked together on a previous project, and, seeing you develop, as you said before, when we started the first project, that was like when we kind of first met, and you were in a wheelchair, and we were all kind of at a similar place in terms of like our diagnosis and stuff when we first met. But because I've now worked on like 2 projects with you, seeing you like from Luke on the first project to Luke now, I feel like you're a completely different person, and like you've kind of like, I don't want to make it sound cringe, but it's kind of like you've came into your own, and like you've really like thrown yourself out there, and like, yeah.
Going for it. Would you agree with that, Luke?
No. No comment.
Yeah.
Typical Anakin. And like,
thank you.
you're very welcome.
Thank you.
And yeah, working with like Eve and Nina as well, like, it's just been an incredible like project to be a part of. And I think, as we've gone on, like, the 3 of us had never like been together as a group before this project, or the 4 of us, if we're going to include Nina in this. But it's also like, working on this project, and it's been like every couple of weeks or whatever that we've been coming together, and we'd throw some ideas at Nina, and she'd go away and she'd be getting it all together. But I think it's kind of like being able to see like the progression of it. So I think as we've just like gone along, we've kind of like not only got to develop our characters and like the project itself, but we've also got to like know each other as people. And like I think we realised that when we were downstairs on the tour, the first tour, like the weekend it came out, and the three of us were stood there and Nina was doing a great job introducing it, and then we all just started chatting to like this audience who just came to see our exhibition, but we just kept bouncing off each other, and yeah, it was nice to feel that vibe, and shows like how well we kind of work together as a group, I guess.
One sort of short thing, which I've said to you guys like a million bazillion times, but now I'm going to say it publicly, is that I think I want to thank you guys, like Mel, Luke, and Eve, for being so incredibly generous with your experiences and bringing so much into the project. We would have got there if you hadn't done it, but it wouldn't have been as rich. And also for making it such an enjoyable process. Like there wasn't, even though we're like talking about really difficult things, there was never a part where sometimes it felt deep, but there was never like a super like a heaviness with it, where I felt like we were kind of like suddenly got into a hole and we think, oh, how are we going to get out of this? Like I felt like there's a lot of camaraderie with the project of you guys supporting each other through everything, and it was just a really beautiful way of working. And that comes from you, because I don't think that's something that I could have forced you to do. So you were just an absolute joy to work with. I don't know what I was expecting from the group, but I was ready to be working with a different group of like a different sort of temperament, and I was just so pleasantly surprised with who I was working with. And you've continued to kind of surprise me, like when we did the tour the other day. It was amazing how much you were able to kind of take the project and make it your own, and kind of deliver what you thought about the project to a group of complete strangers, like to a public. So that was really amazing. So thank you. I think also projects like these are really rare, and I've never done a project like this of like working for such a long period of time with a group of people. And I would say to both, if anyone ends up listening to this who either gets the chance to be a participant in a project like this, I would say snap up the opportunity, because I think it's kind of a once in a lifetime experience. I don't know whether like these things come along that much. And then also I would say to any artists who get offered these kinds of opportunities, I would also say snap it up, because it's such a great way of working. And I don't think that even working in participatory projects, you don't ever get this much time to work with a group of people. So yeah, to both sides, I would just say like definitely dive in, which is sort of riffing on what you were saying with like the motion capture, like just go for it. I think also like, you know, when I've collaborated in the past, it can be really hard to collaborate with people. I don't know about like even at school projects, like I mean at art school, when they kind of make you like work together as a team and like think up an idea, and it just always is really forced, and usually people end up like wanting to take it in one direction and others don't get to take it in another direction. And like we didn't argue at all. We just did the task. We like just made something together. It's actually like that doesn't happen that often, where like you just make something together and suddenly you have this amazing exhibition. And also I would say that that's not just the four of us, because it's also because we had an amazing team helping us and facilitating all of the sessions. So it's not just us, but yeah, it is amazing.
How lovely. Well, I think that's all the questions I have for you, and I'd like to thank all three of you, and Eve, thanking Eve as well. The finalised podcast will be published. I'll tell you about where you can see that now, but that gives you incentive to go and watch back, so you can go and see all the additional really important bits that we'll add in from Eve's perspective as well. But thank you, because I've heard about this project consistently from Mel over the past year. The GlioBabes podcast is about a year old, so I've heard from Mel because we've known each other for about 2 years now, and I was a bit confused. I thought, right, piecing bits together, and earlier this afternoon was the first time I saw it. I thought, gosh, it all makes sense now. I understand. And as someone on the outside, but someone that's understand a lot of the processes that were behind from a young person's perspective. I could see bits of it. I was thinking, oh, the scanner, the this, the that, the yes, that feels like that, the invisibility, society, all of those things kind of like made sense. And watching the BB back, I was a bit like, a little bit emotional at parts, because I was like, I don't know if that's what they intended, but that's how I felt. And it was really nice. So thank you to all of you, because I'm sure there will be many people that you don't even know will see the exhibition and be really impacted by that. Thank you as well to you, Mel, because you what you've done is you've opened this up to someone who, like you say, 3 of you got this opportunity. There will be many young people across, well, even locally, but across the country, across the world, that don't have that opportunity, that will get to come in and see that. And you've opened that up and enabled the GlioBabes podcast to be here today. So thank you for your efforts. You can find the GlioBabes podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, and YouTube. Did I get those right?
Yep.
Phenomenal. I don't do the techie stuff, as you can see. And we're 5 seasons in. We bring on guests. We do all sorts. We've got GPs, oncologists. We've got a sex therapist coming on. We're covering everything to try and be that extra level of things that maybe we don't want to have those conversations about. And this is another way of doing that, isn't it? It's developing a new, innovative way to have those conversations. And even if it's not talking, it's feel those feelings. So please do go and find the GlioBabes podcast, and of course see the exhibition when it's open as well. And Mel, I'll hand over to you, considering you're at the heart of this, of the GlioBabes and the project, to wrap this up.
Yeah, well, thank you all for coming tonight. Hopefully we've answered some of your questions. And yeah, hopefully we'll catch you downstairs in the digital twin. Thank you very much.